It all started with an empty house and a quiet evening that shouldn't have felt so heavy. It was one of those rare moments when everything seemed to freeze. The world outside was loud, cars honking, neighbors arguing, kids running down the street. But inside, the silence was almost suffocating. I was sitting in the kitchen, staring at my coffee cup like it held all the answers. The house had been like this for weeks, empty, hollow. It wasn't that I was alone. My wife, Lana, was just in the next room, but she might as well have been miles away. Lana and I didn't fight. We weren't those kinds of people. We didn't argue about petty things. But it had been months since we'd truly talked. Sure, we exchanged pleasantries, shared the odd laugh over a cup of coffee, or discussed our work, but it wasn't real. It wasn't the kind of connection I was used to, the kind we once had. It was as if she was drifting, and I was just watching her sail away. And that night, something snapped. Something inside me broke. I had to do something. I couldn't just keep pretending that everything was fine. So, I walked into the living room where she was, sitting on the couch, her eyes glued to her phone. She didn't look up when I entered. I stood there for a moment, gathering my thoughts, trying to figure out how to bridge the gap that had been widening between us. It wasn't that I didn't love her. I did. But love felt different now. It felt like a habit, a comfortable routine. And maybe that's why I did it. Maybe I needed something to shake us out of our stupor. Lana, I said, my voice breaking the silence like a crack in glass. She glanced up, her face slightly confused. Yeah, she replied, her voice distant. I could feel the tension in my chest, but I wasn't about to back down. I've been thinking. We need to break the routine. Let's play a game. Her eyebrow arched. A game? What, like charades? No, I said, shaking my head. Not something boring like that. Something different. Something real. She laughed lightly, a soft, almost mocking laugh, but she didn't say anything more. It was the kind of laugh that told me she thought I was joking. She probably thought I was being dramatic, or that I was trying to make a point without knowing what point I was trying to make. I'm serious, I said, moving closer to the couch. I could feel the weight of my words settling in the space between us. A game of dares. But this time, there's a twist. If you're up for it. She tilted her head, the corners of her mouth turning up in that familiar, mischievous smile. The smile that had first drawn me in years ago. But something in her eyes was different now. There was a spark, something flickering behind them that I hadn't seen in months. Dares? And what kind of dares are we talking about? I took a deep breath, gathering my courage. This wasn't something I could back out of now. I dare you to choose. To pick a path. To choose what you want, really want, when this game is over. Her eyes narrowed slightly, considering my words. A path? You want me to pick something, what, life-changing? Maybe, I said. Maybe it's something small. Or maybe it's something big. But at the end of this game, we'll know who we are. We'll know where we stand. She stood up, putting her phone down on the coffee table. For a second, I thought she was going to laugh it off, tell me I was being ridiculous. But instead, she took a step toward me, closing the space between us. So, you're challenging me then? She asked, her voice lower, a bit more intrigued than I expected. I nodded slowly. I want you to find me when this game is over. I want to know if you still see me the way you did before everything changed. I want to see if you still choose me, Lana. She was quiet for a moment, and I couldn't read her expression. There was something calculating in her gaze. She wasn't playing around. For the first time in months, I wasn't sure what she was thinking. And that terrified me. What if I don't choose you? She asked quietly, as though testing the waters. I swallowed hard, feeling my heart beat faster than it should. Then it's over, and I'll walk away. No questions asked. No looking back. Lana stepped back, running a hand through her hair. I could feel the weight of her silence pressing against me. The air felt thick, heavy with the unsaid things between us. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, she spoke. All right, Leonard. I'll play your game. But you better be prepared, because you might not like what happens when I choose. The words hung in the air, thick with meaning. And I knew, right then, that this wasn't just a game anymore. This was a turning point. A moment that would define us. Who we were, who we had become, and what we were willing to lose. And I wasn't sure what was worse. The idea that she might choose someone else, or the terrifying thought that, deep down, I was already prepared for it. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, my mind racing. I had just put everything on the line. A game. A challenge. It sounded absurd when I thought about it logically, but in that moment, it felt necessary. More than that, it felt like the only way to make sense of everything that had been unraveling between Lana and me. I could hear her in the bathroom, the soft sounds of her preparing for bed. I knew she hadn't taken me seriously at first, probably thinking I was just in one of my moods, the ones where I get frustrated about everything and nothing. But I saw something in her eyes when she agreed to play the game. Something deeper, more calculating. Maybe she was just playing along to humor me, but part of me felt she understood exactly what I was asking. I didn't know what I was hoping for. Maybe I wanted her to tell me everything was fine. Maybe I wanted to hear that she hadn't been hiding anything, that everything between us could go back to normal if I just let go of the doubt. But deep down, I didn't think that would happen. Not anymore. The game wasn't just about dares. It wasn't about me daring her to kiss someone or drink a shot of tequila. No, it was about the choices. It was about seeing if she would choose me over whatever had been distracting her for so long. It was about facing the truth. When she came to bed, she didn't say anything at first. I tried to pretend I was asleep, but I could feel her presence beside me. I felt the heat of her body against mine, the quiet hum of her breathing. I wanted to reach out, to pull her close, to feel that connection again, but I couldn't. There was something in the space between us that I couldn't ignore. Something invisible that kept us apart. She broke the silence. Do you really think it's going to come to that? Her voice was soft, but there was a bite to it. I turned over to face her, my heart pounding in my chest. I don't know. I guess we'll find out. Lana was silent for a moment, her face illuminated by the dim light from the hallway. Her eyes searched mine, but I couldn't read them. It was like she was trying to decide whether to tell me the truth or keep up the facade. Finally, she spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. You think I'll choose someone else, don't you? I froze. The words hung in the air, too real, too honest. My mind screamed at me to say something, to deny it, to reassure her. But the truth was, I didn't know what to believe anymore. I didn't know who she was, not really. I don't know what to think, I said, my voice hoarse. All I know is that things have changed, and I don't think I'm the one who changed. She shifted in bed, pulling the blanket tighter around her, her back turned to me now. I could feel the tension between us growing, filling the room like smoke. I'm not the person you think I am, Leonard, she said, her voice low, almost distant. I felt a chill run through me. What does that mean? There was a long pause before she spoke again. I'm not the same person you married. I've changed, Leonard. I've been changing for a while now. Her words hit me like a punch to the stomach. I wanted to say something, to ask her why, how, what happened, but the words wouldn't come. All I could do was lie there, frozen in the darkness, listening to the sound of her breathing. Maybe this game will help us figure things out, she continued, almost as though she were talking to herself. Maybe we both need to see what we're willing to risk. I didn't respond. What was there to say? I had already put everything on the line. I had dared her to choose. But the truth was, I wasn't ready for what might come next. The next morning, everything felt different. The air was thick with unspoken words. Lana was distant, as if nothing had happened the night before, but I could feel the weight of our conversation pressing down on us. We went through the motions, coffee, breakfast, the usual routine, but it felt like we were both pretending that the game didn't matter, pretending that nothing had changed. But everything had changed, and neither of us could deny it anymore. As the day wore on, I found myself thinking about the game. The rules were simple, no backing out, no pretending. If she chose someone else, if she decided to walk away from us, then that would be it. No more games, no more second chances. I wasn't going to beg her to stay. I wasn't going to grovel. If she wanted to leave, if she wanted to be with someone else, then I would let her go. But the thought of losing her, the thought of her choosing someone else, it gnawed at me. It was a fear I didn't want to face, but there it was, raw and real, staring me in the face. I had never imagined that something so simple, something like a dare, could lead us to this point. But here we were, standing at the edge, waiting to see what would happen when the game was over. The hours passed slowly. I couldn't focus on anything. I tried to go through the motions, tried to act normal, but the feeling of uncertainty kept pressing down on me. Every text she sent, every phone call she took, every moment she spent away from me, it all felt like a countdown. By the time evening came, I was on edge. I couldn't sit still. I didn't know where Lana had gone or what she was doing, but I could feel the tension building, the anticipation hanging heavy in the air. And then, as if on cue, I received a text from her. "I'm meeting someone tonight. Don't wait up." My stomach twisted. I didn't have to ask who it was. I knew. I could already feel the game slipping away from me. But I didn't respond. I didn't need to. The challenge had already been made, and the truth was staring me in the face. The game had begun, and soon, I would find out just how far Lana was willing to go to win it. I stared at her message for a long time, the screen glowing in my hands like a warning. I couldn't even remember the last time Lana had sent me a message like that, an abrupt, almost careless message that made my chest tighten and my mind race. Meeting someone tonight. Don't wait up. It was so simple, yet it carried so much weight. Who was she meeting? Why didn't she just tell me? For the first time in weeks, I felt that sharp, familiar sting of jealousy. But more than that, I felt a deep sense of loss, like I was losing her piece by piece and didn't know how to stop it. I didn't respond. I knew I couldn't. Something inside me told me that if I confronted her now, if I showed her how much I cared, I'd just be digging my own grave. I had to let the game play out, even if it was torturing me, even if every fiber of my being wanted to call her, ask her who she was meeting, beg her to stay. But I couldn't. I couldn't show weakness. Not anymore. The evening passed slowly, each hour dragging on as I sat in our empty living room, the silence in the house growing heavier with every passing minute. The clock on the wall ticked away as though mocking me, reminding me that time was running out. I could hear the faint sound of cars outside, the distant hum of traffic, but it all felt so far away, like I was trapped in my own mind. And then, finally, after what felt like an eternity, I heard the front door open. The sound of her keys hitting the counter made me jump, and my heart rate quickened. Lana was home. I tried to act normal, tried to pretend that nothing was wrong, but the tension between us was palpable. She didn't look at me as she walked past, heading straight for the kitchen without a word. The room felt cold, distant. It was like she was a stranger walking through my door, and for a moment, I wondered if she even saw me anymore. I couldn't stand the silence. "How was it?" I asked, my voice sounding foreign even to me. I hated the way it came out, as if I were trying to sound casual, like I wasn't falling apart on the inside. She paused for a moment, then glanced over at me, her face unreadable. "It was fine," she said, her tone flat. She didn't elaborate, didn't offer any more details. But I saw something in her eyes, a flicker, a hesitation, as if she was holding something back. I could feel my pulse in my throat, the words I'd been holding back threatening to spill out. I wanted to ask her, demand to know who she had met, what had happened, but I stayed quiet. The game wasn't over yet, and I wasn't ready to lose. Instead, I took a deep breath and tried to keep my voice steady. "Are you ready for the next part of the game?" Lana didn't answer right away. She took a step closer to me, studying my face as if she was deciding whether or not to say something. Then, with a small, almost imperceptible smile, she said, "I'm ready. But are you?" Her words sent a chill down my spine. She was playing, but I wasn't sure if she was still playing with me or if she had already moved on to something else. The uncertainty was eating at me, gnawing at the edges of my thoughts. And yet, I couldn't bring myself to back down now. I couldn't let her think she had control over this situation. The challenge was still there. It wasn't just a game anymore. It was about everything that had been unsaid between us, everything that had been broken over the years and shoved under the rug. This wasn't just about dares or who we kissed in a silly game. This was about trust, choices, and what we were both willing to risk to find out if we still mattered to each other. She walked past me, not saying another word, and I watched her disappear into the bedroom. I stayed where I was for a while, not knowing what to do with myself. The silence was deafening, and every minute stretched out longer than the last. I was waiting for the moment when Lana would make her choice, when she would either choose me or walk away. I don't know how long I sat there, just staring at the wall, my mind replaying the same thoughts over and over. Maybe this was my fault. Maybe I had been too complacent, too willing to accept the routine. Maybe I had ignored the signs, let her slip away without even realizing it. But I didn't have time to dwell on that. The game was still in motion, and I had to see it through. Finally, Lana emerged from the bedroom. She had changed into something more comfortable, a loose shirt and sweatpants, her hair falling messily around her shoulders. But there was something different in her eyes. Something guarded. Something I didn't recognize. She stood there for a moment, watching me, before speaking again. "You're not going to like what happens next," she said, her voice steady, almost too calm. I didn't say anything. I just watched her, waiting. The tension between us was suffocating. I could feel the weight of her words pressing down on me, but I couldn't back away now. I had come this far, and I wasn't going to turn back. Lana's eyes softened for a brief second, and then she said, "I've made my choice, Leonard, and I'm not going to play by your rules anymore." My heart skipped a beat. The words hit me harder than I was ready for. "What do you mean?" She stepped closer to me, her face inches from mine, her breath warm against my skin. "You wanted me to choose. You wanted to see if I'd still pick you. Well, I'm done waiting for you to make up your mind. I've already decided." For a moment, everything went still. I couldn't breathe. My mind was racing, trying to process what she was saying, but the words didn't make sense. "Who?" I asked, barely above a whisper. Lana didn't answer right away. Instead, she leaned in, her lips brushing against my ear, and whispered, "Someone you already know. Someone who's been here all along." A shiver ran down my spine. I pulled back, my eyes searching hers for the truth, but I couldn't read her. I couldn't understand what she was saying. And then it hit me. The game had never been about me choosing her. It had always been about her choosing. But who was the person she had chosen? And more importantly, what did it mean for me? I couldn't think straight. I couldn't breathe. The words Lana had just whispered were echoing in my mind like a broken record, playing over and over again. "Someone you already know. Someone who's been here all along." Her voice was soft, almost too soft, as if she were testing the waters, seeing how far she could push me. My body felt like it was made of stone, frozen in place, while my mind spun in 1,000 directions, trying to piece together the cryptic message she had just dropped on me. Who? Who could it be? I racked my brain, desperately trying to make sense of what she had said. Was it someone I knew well? Someone I trusted? Someone who had been quietly pulling strings behind the scenes while I remained blissfully unaware? My heart hammered in my chest, my thoughts racing faster than I could process them. Lana stepped back, her eyes holding a mixture of something I couldn't quite place. Fear, excitement, something darker? It was as if she was waiting for me to react, to explode, but I couldn't. I couldn't do anything except stand there, caught in this awful, suffocating silence. I tried to speak, but my voice failed me. "Lana, what are you talking about? Who is it?" She smiled faintly, a sad, almost regretful smile, and shook her head. "I think you know. You just don't want to admit it." I stared at her, bewildered. "What are you saying? Why are you doing this to me?" Her eyes softened, but there was no apology in them. "I'm not doing anything to you, Leonard. I'm just being honest. You've been blind to it for a long time, but the truth is right in front of you." The room felt colder suddenly. The air was thick with something I couldn't explain, like there was an invisible wall between us, something that separated me from the woman I thought I knew. Something had changed, and now there was no going back. I stepped closer to her, my frustration mounting. "Tell me, please, Lana. I need to know. Who is it?" She paused, her lips parting as if she were about to say something, but then she closed them again, her expression unreadable. For a moment, I thought she wasn't going to answer, that she was going to leave me hanging, twisting in the wind. But then, in a soft, almost defeated tone, she finally spoke. "It's Alex," she said, her voice barely a whisper. I froze. The world seemed to stop moving. Alex? My best friend? The guy I had known for years, the guy who had been at our wedding, who had spent countless nights at our house, sharing beers and stories like old friends do? My mind couldn't process it. How could this be real? How could she have chosen him? I felt a dizzying rush of nausea, disbelief, and anger all at once. I took a step back, my legs feeling weak beneath me. "Alex, are you kidding me? You're serious?" Lana's face was a mixture of guilt and something else, something harder, more determined. I never meant for it to happen like this. It just happened. I wanted to shout. I wanted to scream at her, to demand every single detail, to know how long this had been going on, how many times they had crossed the line while I had remained oblivious. But I couldn't. The words were stuck in my throat. I couldn't even look at her properly. How could she do this to me? How could she betray me with him of all people? "How long, Lana?" I managed to croak, the words scraping their way out. "How long has this been going on?" She looked away, her eyes drifting to the floor, unable, or unwilling, to meet my gaze. "A few months," she admitted, her voice small, as if she were ashamed. "A few months. A few months, and all this time I had been living in the dark, thinking everything was fine, that we were still happy, still solid. I couldn't process it. I couldn't understand it. "I'm sorry, Leonard," she said softly, almost as if she truly felt sorry. "I didn't know how to tell you. I didn't want to hurt you." I laughed bitterly, the sound so hollow it scared me. "You didn't know how to tell me? You chose him. You didn't just accidentally fall into this, Lana. You made a choice. You knew exactly what you were doing." She didn't respond immediately. Instead, she just stood there, her face unreadable, her posture stiff, like she was bracing for a storm. And in a way, I was the storm. I was the one who felt like everything inside me was tearing apart, like I was losing control of myself. This wasn't the woman I had married. This wasn't the life we had built together. "So that's it?" I asked, my voice shaking now, though I wasn't sure why. Was it anger? Fear? Heartbreak? All of it, maybe. "You just choose him, and that's the end of it." Lana bit her lip, her eyes filling with a quiet sadness. "I don't want it to be over, Leonard. I never wanted that. But I can't keep pretending like nothing's changed. This is real, and I can't ignore it anymore." I felt like the floor had dropped out from under me. I was falling, but there was nowhere to land. My mind was racing, but it couldn't catch up with my emotions. Everything I thought I knew, everything I trusted, had been shattered in a single moment. I didn't know who Lana was anymore, and I didn't know who I was in this new version of our relationship. "So what now?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. "What happens next? Do you just leave? Go off with him?" Lana seemed to hesitate, like she wasn't sure how to answer. She took a step back, her eyes welling up, but I wasn't sure if it was guilt or something else. "I don't want to hurt you more than I already have," she said quietly. "But I think you deserve to know the truth. I think we both need to face it." I stood there, motionless, as she walked away. She didn't look back, didn't give me a second glance. The door to our bedroom clicked shut, and I was left standing in the hallway, staring at nothing, trying to understand everything that had just happened. My best friend, my wife, all of it, betrayed, shattered, crumbling around me. I didn't know what to do anymore. I didn't know how to make sense of any of it. But one thing was clear, the game wasn't over yet. It had only just begun. The silence that followed Lana's confession felt suffocating. The walls of the house seemed to close in around me as I stood in the hallway, staring at the bedroom door she had just walked through. I could hear the faint sound of her moving around inside, probably packing or organizing, doing whatever it was she felt she needed to do. But I couldn't bring myself to move. I felt paralyzed, rooted to the spot by the weight of her words. Alex, my best friend, the one person I had trusted completely. I had never seen it coming. I couldn't believe how easily she had slipped away from me, how she had chosen him, someone who had been a part of our lives, someone who knew me better than I knew myself. It wasn't just betrayal. It was a deeper, more devastating kind of betrayal. The kind that made me question everything. Every moment we'd shared, every laugh, every touch. Had it all been a lie? I could feel the anger rising in my chest, hot and sharp, but it was quickly drowned out by an overwhelming wave of disbelief. I kept thinking I must be dreaming, that this wasn't real, that this was some sick nightmare I'd wake up from any second. But no matter how many times I blinked or rubbed my eyes, the reality of it didn't change. I had always prided myself on being observant, on knowing the people around me. But I had missed this. I had missed the signs, the subtle changes in Lana's behavior, the late nights, the secretive phone calls. The fact that she had been carrying on with Alex for months, right under my nose, was something I couldn't wrap my head around. It felt like a cruel joke, but there was no punchline. I needed to confront her, to demand more answers. I needed to understand how this had happened, why she had gone down this path. But the idea of facing her again, seeing the pity in her eyes, made me sick to my stomach. I didn't know what I was supposed to say to her anymore. I walked aimlessly around the house, unable to sit still, unable to think clearly. The kitchen, the living room, the hallway, they all felt foreign to me now. The house we had built together, the space that had once felt so familiar, now felt like a cage. The walls were closing in. Finally, I couldn't take it anymore. I needed to know what came next, what her plan was, what she intended to do. With a deep breath, I approached the bedroom door and knocked softly. There was no response at first, and for a moment, I thought she might pretend she didn't hear me. But then I heard the soft shuffle of footsteps, and the door slowly creaked open. Lana stood there, her eyes red-rimmed from what I could only assume were tears. She looked exhausted, like she had been carrying the weight of this secret for far too long. She wasn't wearing the confident, assured mask she usually wore. Instead, she looked broken, vulnerable in a way I had never seen her before. "What do you want, Leonard?" she asked, her voice quiet but firm. I looked at her, trying to hold back the wave of emotion that was threatening to crash over me. "I need to understand. How long has this been going on? Why? Why him, Lana?" She stepped aside, opening the door wider, inviting me in, though I wasn't sure I wanted to be there. I stepped inside the room, the atmosphere thick with the tension between us. The bed, the shelves, the small trinkets we had picked up together over the years. All of it felt like it belonged to someone else now. It was as if the room had become a monument to a life that was no longer mine. Lana sat down on the edge of the bed, her hands folded in her lap, avoiding my gaze. "It started slowly," she said, her voice trembling just slightly. "At first, it was just conversations. Little things that started to mean more. You were always so busy, so caught up in everything else, and Alex was there. He was always there when I needed someone. And one day, it just happened." I took a deep breath, my chest tightening. "So that's it. You just fell into it? There was no choice, no moment where you thought, this is wrong? You didn't think about me, about us?" She finally looked at me, her eyes filled with something I couldn't quite place. "Of course I thought about you. But, Leonard, I couldn't keep pretending. I couldn't keep living in a relationship where I wasn't truly happy. I didn't want to hurt you, but I also didn't want to keep lying to myself." Her words stung, more than I was prepared for. I had tried so hard to hold on to what we had, to keep things together, but in the end, I wasn't the one she had chosen. She had chosen Alex. She had chosen him over me, over everything we had built together. And now, I was left standing in the wreckage of our marriage, trying to pick up the pieces, but it was too late. I opened my mouth to say something, anything, but the words wouldn't come. What could I say? What was there left to say? I had trusted her. I had trusted Alex. I had let my guard down, thinking that everything was fine, when in reality, they had been tearing everything apart behind my back. Finally, I managed to speak. "What happens now, Lana? What do we do?" She stood up, her eyes never leaving mine, her expression resolute. "I don't know, Leonard. I honestly don't. But I think you deserve to know the truth. I think we both need to figure out where we go from here." I nodded slowly, though my mind was still spinning. I wasn't sure I could stay in this house, in this life, knowing what I knew now. I wasn't sure I could look at Lana the same way again, or trust Alex ever again. But there was one thing I knew for certain. I wasn't going to let this happen without a fight. I wasn't going to let my life, my marriage, end like this without trying to make sense of it. I didn't know how, and I didn't know when, but I would find a way to move forward. The game was over. But my story, it was just beginning. I didn't know what to do with myself in that moment. My legs felt like they were going to give out, and for a few seconds, I had to steady myself against the wall, trying to collect my thoughts. My mind was in chaos, flashes of memories with Lana, of the good times, of the moments when I had believed we were on solid ground. Now all felt hollow, like someone had ripped the soul out of them. The weight of her words still hung in the air between us, suffocating me with every passing second. "It just happened," she had said. "It just happened." Was that supposed to make it okay? I could feel my anger bubbling up again, but it was different this time. It wasn't the kind of rage that burns with a quick, hot flame. No, this was colder, more dangerous. It was a quiet, simmering fury that made my chest tighten, my vision blur. How could she do this? How could they do this? I looked around the room, our room, wondering if I should just leave. Leave this place that had once been my home, that had once felt like a sanctuary. I felt like a ghost in my own life. I wasn't sure where to go or what to do, but I couldn't stand here and let her pretend like everything was okay. I couldn't let her think that I was just going to accept this betrayal and walk away without demanding more answers. "Where does he fit into all of this, Lana?" I asked, my voice almost a whisper, but there was no softness in it. I needed to understand. I needed to know how long this had been happening, how deep this went. "You're telling me it just happened, but how could it just happen with him? How long have you been planning this? When did you start seeing him like this?" Lana looked at me, her face pale, her hands shaking just slightly as she folded them in her lap. I didn't plan it, Leonard. It wasn't like that. At first, it was just something small, like I said, just talking, confiding in each other. But eventually, I started feeling things I wasn't supposed to. And by the time I realized how deep it had gone, it was too late. I couldn't stop it. I felt a knot form in my stomach. She made it sound so casual, like it wasn't a choice, like it wasn't her fault, like it was something inevitable. But I knew the truth. She had made a choice. She had chosen Alex, and now, I was left to pick up the pieces of my shattered life. The worst part wasn't even that she had been with him. It was the way she had lied to my face for months, how she had pretended everything was normal while keeping this secret from me, how she had looked me in the eyes and promised she loved me, all while planning to walk away from it. She had chosen him over me, over everything we had. I deserve more than this, Lana, I said, my voice shaking now with frustration and hurt. I deserve the truth. I deserve to know what you're really thinking. You can't just tell me this and expect me to walk away without understanding how it got here. I need to know everything. She didn't look at me. Instead, she stared at the floor, her shoulders hunched, her expression unreadable. For a moment, I thought she wasn't going to answer, that she was going to shut down again like she had done so many times over the past few months. But then, finally, she spoke, her voice almost a whisper. I never wanted to hurt you, Leonard. You have to understand that. But I couldn't keep pretending. I couldn't keep pretending that I was happy when I wasn't. And with Alex, it was different. It was real. It was something I couldn't ignore anymore. Her words hit me like a physical blow, but I didn't flinch. I couldn't. I was too numb now, too consumed by the weight of it all. You don't get it, Lana, I said, my words barely coming out as a whisper, a mixture of disbelief and anger. You don't get that you've destroyed everything. I gave you everything, and you just threw it all away. You didn't care. You didn't even think about me. You didn't think about us. I was breathing harder now, the rage bubbling to the surface again. I didn't care that she was standing there, crying, looking like she was torn apart by what she had done. None of it mattered anymore. I didn't care about her pain. I didn't care about how guilty she felt. Because in that moment, I realized none of this was for me. None of this was ever about us. This was about her choices, her needs, her desires. And I was left to pick up the pieces. But as much as I wanted to yell, to scream at her for what she had done, there was one question that burned through me like a fire. Why him? Why Alex? I turned my back to her and walked over to the window, staring out into the night. The streetlights cast long shadows, and the distant sound of cars passing by filled the silence in the room. My mind was racing. It wasn't just about the affair anymore. It wasn't just about the pain. It was about the deception. How could I trust anything she had told me? How could I trust the woman who had lied to me for so long? When I finally spoke again, my voice was low and cold, devoid of emotion. So what happens now, Lana? What's the next step? What am I supposed to do with this? You've ruined everything. You've destroyed us. And I don't know how to fix that. I don't know if I want to. I turned back to face her, my heart aching in a way I had never known before. The woman I had loved, the woman I had given my trust to, had shattered everything. And now, I was standing here, not knowing where to go, not knowing what came next. Lana was silent for a moment, her eyes filled with a kind of sorrow that only made me angrier. I don't expect you to forgive me, Leonard, she said softly. I don't expect you to forget. But I think we both know that things can never go back to how they were. You have to decide what you want now. You have to decide if you want to try to move on, or if you're going to walk away. I stared at her, my heart pounding in my chest. I had never felt more lost in my life. What was I supposed to do? What was the right choice? How could I make a decision when everything felt like it was falling apart? And in that moment, I knew one thing for certain. The hardest part wasn't deciding what to do next. It was facing the truth that no matter what choice I made, nothing would ever be the same again. I didn't know how long we stood there in the silence. It felt like hours, but it was probably only a few minutes. Time had no meaning anymore. I could hear my heart pounding in my chest, and for a moment, it felt like the room was closing in on me. The weight of Lana's words was suffocating, and I couldn't seem to shake the image of Alex's face from my mind. How could they have done this to me? How could I have been so blind? When I finally broke the silence, my voice was quieter than I intended, hoarse from the emotions I had been holding in. I don't know what to do, Lana. I don't know what you expect from me. You've already made your choice. You've already broken everything. What's left to fix? Lana's eyes filled with tears again, but she wiped them away quickly, trying to maintain some semblance of composure. I never wanted to break you, Leonard. I never wanted this to happen. But I can't go back. I can't undo what's been done. And I don't know how to make things right. But I need you to understand that this wasn't easy for me either. Her words hung in the air, but they didn't feel real. They felt like an excuse, like an attempt to ease her own guilt. She had betrayed me. She had chosen him over me. There was nothing she could say to make that go away, nothing that would erase the hurt I was feeling. What are you asking me for, Lana? I finally demanded, my voice thick with frustration. Do you want me to forgive you? To act like this never happened? Do you want me to just move on and pretend like everything is fine again? Her gaze flickered, and she seemed to hesitate before responding. I don't know what I'm asking for. I don't think I have the right to ask you for anything. I just need you to understand that I never meant to hurt you. I never wanted to lose what we had. I shook my head in disbelief. She didn't mean to hurt me. She never wanted to lose what we had. If that was true, then how had we gotten here? How had she allowed herself to go down this path? How could she have continued to lie to my face, day after day, and pretend everything was fine? You don't get it, Lana, I said, the words coming out in a rush now, the anger and hurt I had been holding back finally spilling over. You don't get that you've destroyed everything. You've shattered the trust we had. And now I don't even know who you are anymore. I don't know if I can ever look at you the same way again. How could I? You've made your choice, and it wasn't me. Lana stepped forward, her hands trembling as she reached out toward me, but I took a step back, not ready to let her close the gap. Please, she whispered, her voice breaking, I know I can't undo what I've done. But I'm still here, Leonard. I'm still here. I'm not going anywhere. And if there's a chance, any chance, that we can fix this, I want to try. I want to make it right. I stared at her, my mind a whirlwind of thoughts and emotions. Could we fix this? Could we rebuild what had been destroyed? A part of me wanted to believe it was possible. A part of me wanted to forgive her, to move past the pain and the lies and find our way back to each other. But I didn't know if I could. The damage had been done, and the trust between us was gone. It wasn't something you could just rebuild overnight. I don't know, Lana, I said quietly, my voice trembling now with the weight of the decision. I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I can keep pretending that everything's okay. How do we even start again after this? She was silent for a moment, her eyes searching mine as if she was hoping to see some flicker of the man she once knew. I don't know, she whispered. I wish I had the answers, Leonard. But I don't. All I know is that I love you, and I don't want to lose you. I need you to know that. I wanted to believe her. I wanted to hold on to the love we had shared, to let the past go and move forward. But I couldn't ignore the gnawing doubt in the pit of my stomach. Could I really forgive her? Could I ever look at her and not see the betrayal? Could I ever trust her again? I don't know if I can forgive you, I said finally, the words tasting like ash in my mouth. But I don't know if I can walk away from everything we've built either. I need time. Time to think. Time to figure out what I want. Lana nodded, her face etched with a mixture of sadness and relief. She had been holding her breath, waiting for me to either let her in or push her away completely. And though I wasn't ready to let her back in just yet, I also wasn't ready to throw everything away. I understand, she said softly, taking a step back, her posture deflated. Take all the time you need. I'll be here, Leonard. If you ever want to talk, if you ever want to try, I'll be here. I didn't know what to say. What was there left to say? The decision wasn't mine to make just yet, but I could feel the weight of everything on me. The betrayal, the uncertainty, the pain, and I knew that whatever I chose would change everything. It would either be the end of us, or the beginning of something new, and I didn't know which one I was ready for. As I walked out of the room, I felt like a stranger in my own life. The house that had once felt like a home now felt like a prison, its walls closing in on me with every step I took. I didn't know how to fix this. I didn't know if it could be fixed at all. All I knew was that nothing would ever be the same again, and I wasn't sure I was ready to face that truth. Days passed. The silence between Lana and me was deafening, yet somehow, I began to breathe again. The storm of emotions that had consumed me in the wake of everything was slowly calming, but it still felt like I was walking through a fog. Nothing was clear, and every step I took felt uncertain. Every time I looked at Lana, I saw the echoes of what had happened, the distance between us that couldn't be erased with just an apology. The trust we had built over years had crumbled, and no amount of words could fix it overnight. But time, as it always does, gave me a moment of clarity. I spent long hours on my own, reflecting on everything that had led us here. There were nights when I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, replaying our conversations, the moments of joy we shared, and the lies that had slipped in between. But there were also moments when I thought about why we had gotten together in the first place. The laughter, the chemistry, the deep connection. I thought about the little things, the way Lana's eyes lit up when she talked about her dreams, the way she held my hand during quiet moments, the way we could communicate without saying a word. Those moments, they were real. They weren't lies. They were the foundation of everything we had built. And somewhere in the midst of all that confusion, I realized something. Love isn't perfect. It isn't always easy. It isn't always about never making mistakes. But it is about the choice to try again, to pick up the pieces, to build something new when everything has fallen apart. When I finally decided to talk to Lana again, it wasn't about going back to the way things were. It was about moving forward, together. I had spent so much time focused on what was broken that I hadn't stopped to think about what we could still build. I wasn't ready to walk away. Not yet. I found her in the kitchen one evening, standing by the window with a cup of tea in her hand, staring out into the night. For the first time in days, I didn't see the distance between us. I saw the woman I had married, the woman I loved, despite everything. "I've been thinking," I said, standing in the doorway. She turned to face me, her expression unreadable, but I saw the flicker of hope in her eyes. "About us. About everything." She put her tea down, her hands trembling just slightly. And I don't have all the answers yet," I admitted, walking closer. "But I'm not ready to give up. Not yet." Her eyes filled with tears, but this time, they weren't from guilt or sadness. They were from something else, something lighter. "Leonard, are you saying you want to try?" I nodded slowly, my heart pounding in my chest. "I want to try. I want to rebuild. Not the same way we were, but something new, something stronger." Lana's face softened, and she took a hesitant step toward me. "I'll do whatever it takes to make it right, Leonard. I'll show you, every day, that I'm here, that I'm all in, if you'll have me." In that moment, I felt something shift inside me, a weight lifting. The road ahead wasn't going to be easy. There would be bumps, there would be moments of doubt, but I finally understood that healing wasn't about erasing the past. It was about learning to live with it, about understanding that it was a part of our story, but it didn't have to define us. I stepped forward, taking her hands in mine, feeling the warmth of them despite the distance that had once been there. "I don't know what the future holds, but I'm willing to try. With you." And in that moment, everything else faded away. The anger, the hurt, the betrayal. What remained was a fragile but real hope. A belief that love, while imperfect, could still be worth fighting for. We didn't have all the answers that night, but we had each other, and that was enough to begin again. The next few months weren't easy. There were hard conversations, long silences, and moments of uncertainty, but we worked through them together. Slowly, we rebuilt trust, not by pretending things had never happened, but by acknowledging the pain and choosing to move forward, hand in hand. Every small gesture, every shared laugh, every moment of understanding was a step toward healing. We weren't the same people we were before everything fell apart. We were different now, wiser, maybe, but stronger in ways that mattered. And as we stood together, looking ahead, I knew that whatever challenges life threw our way, we would face them as a team. The road was long, and the scars would always be there, but they no longer defined us. We did. In the end, it wasn't about the mistake that had been made. It was about the choice to love despite it. And sometimes, that's all you need to build something new, something real, something that lasts.